No. All around the world with this thing. Yeah, let's go. Good early evening, late afternoon to you. It is Saturday, January 18th at 5:36 p.m. Your Purdue Boilermakers have just completed a little bit of a West Coast swing and done it in great fashion. They have won their seventh straight game and went 2-0 on the West Coast. First, they struggled at Washington. Today, they handled their business in spite of creating the work a little bit more difficult than it needed to be. Purdue is now 15-4 in the conference. They're are they atop the conference? No, Michigan State still has no losses. Sorry, excuse me. I'm going to talk all about what I saw, what I thought I saw, and then we'll talk about stats and see if the numbers match what I think. But first, before I do it, I want to thank our friends at Home Field Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com, enter Boiled25 at checkout. You get 15% off your first order. Check out the retro sweater. Check out some of the platinum packs if you haven't done that yet. They've been out for a while, but still worth a look. Lots of cool stuff on there. Homefieldapparel.com. And also, when you're at Purdue and you've watched your Boilers just gut out a game in spite of not shooting well, what do? Well, you head out of Mackey, you turn right, and you fly towards the fire station. You sprint. You don't jog. You go fast because it's cold out. And when you see the fire station, you take a hard left, and you'll see the blue lights. And then you run through the door. You yell, "Boiled." You give Adam a hug. And then you go and you order some of the most delicious pub fare you're going to have in your whole life. You'll have some mac and cheese bites. You're going to have a pretzel appetizer. And then you're going to order some beef of some sort, either the Italian beef or a burger. You can't go wrong. Burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. AJ's by the fire station. Good friends, good folks, the whole thing. All right, so my wife, Mrs. Boiler Dowd, really wanted Purdue to win this game. And I think I know why. I didn't really know it before, but as I watched the game unfold, and my brother-in-law, who is a Purdue alum, and he lives out in the great Northwest, along with his wife, who is an Oregon alum, they all went to the game. And so my brother-in-law specifically fought the good fight. I don't know if he's going to listen today live. Probably won't, because he's going to be in the crowd and whatever. But he got the win. And so if you're looking for someone to give the credit to, sure, you can give it to Trey Kaufman-Renn. That's the easy out. But if you want to do it, it's Boiler Dowd's brother-in-law who did big things. And he wasn't alone. You Purdue alums, 2 straight games in the West Coast, did major stuff and brought home 2 big victories. This second one bigger than the other one. A lot of Purdue fans, though, it's interesting. There's kind of some revisionist history happening because, sure, Oregon struggled versus Illinois at home. And then this game, Purdue really played them in a manner that I don't think Oregon thought Purdue could win this way if they went physical and they went defense first. And what do you know? This Purdue defense travels. But what doesn't travel is the shooting. Purdue shoots like dog meat yet again. They shoot the 3 horribly. And it was a team effort. Did not shoot well, period. Fletch Lawyer all but disappeared. We haven't seen really a disappearing Fletch game in a long time. But who didn't disappear? Smith had a bunch. A lot of assists, didn't shoot well himself, but Trey Kaufman-Renn was absolutely a bull in the china shop. It's almost like something happened during the game that made him angry, and he started doing everything well. From hitting free throws, which is kind of a foreign idea for TKR. He's not the best free throw shooter, to just bullying Oregon. And let's give some credit to somebody real quickly who doesn't get enough credit. Coach Brandon Brantley does this every damn year. He takes a center or a power forward and he says, I'm gonna mold you like a piece of clay and make you into something a lot of people didn't think you could become. I said last game, Trey Kaufman-Renn is an amazing technician of the game. He understands what to do, which hand to go to, the shot to take. That's a high percentage. But today we saw Trey Kaufman-Renn act like an absolute bully against a 7-footer. This is amazing stuff. And this is what Brandon Brantley does. He teaches these guys how to deal with contact, how to play through it, how to find the kind of the beast inside. Well done, Trey Kaufman-Renn, because you carried the Boilers today. He didn't shoot great early, if I'm remembering correctly, but he did all the stuff he needed to do towards the end. I think he hit, if I'm remembering correctly, I think he went like 5 of 6 as free throws down the stretch. If I'm remembering correctly, this I can't really find out quickly by looking at the stats, but I was so impressed with Trey Kaufman-Wren's effort. I was also impressed with some things that Raleigh Burgess had some very important minutes, and Cam Heide showed off a little bit. Colvin was a little frustrated today. If you watch his body language, there were some foul calls that were just absolutely questionable. And there were some things that happened. You're like, how the hell is that not a flagrant? Let's see if we can remember the play specifically. Was it Braden Smith on a fast break gets clipped by Biddle, one of the 7-footer from Oregon, and he doesn't make any intention on the ball at all, and they just call two shots. That shot is an open, shut, flagrant foul because there was no play on the ball at all. None. And it's a big guy undercutting a smaller guy. If I remember correctly, it was Smith. I think it was Smith. Maybe you guys can correct me in the comments and I'll find out in a couple minutes here. But that play frustrated the hell out of me. And the funny thing about this game, here's the thing. I look at Oregon as a really good team that might not reach their potential because you're filled with mercenaries. It's the same problem you see all over college basketball. You got a team that's homegrown and getting better every game. You got another team that came in, man, they have talent, and they got physical tools. You look at Oregon, tell me if you disagree in the comments or here in the margin. How many teams have been more physically imposing when you just look at them and you look at the way they play, the style of play, the bodies on the court, than Auburn and Oregon this year? Those two teams specifically have looked absolute like beasts. Tennessee last year during the Elite Eight game, that's another team that I think physically was incredible to look at. Oregon today, I'm like, man, this is going to be a tough game because Purdue has a bunch of boys and Oregon has men. Well, guess what? Purdue is finding a way to beat those teams filled with mercenaries, filled with old guys, filled with guys that are physically bigger and stronger. And that is on Matt Painter, who, boy, oh boy, Matt Painter is coaching his ass off this year, if we're being real honest. I know a lot of you guys left Purdue for dead. I know a lot of you guys have blamed Painter for not hitting the portal harder this year, and you all thought they're done. Purdue's done. Instead, Purdue has just blossomed and become a butterfly the last month and a half. Let's see, not even a month and a half, last month, right? Incredible change for this Boilermaker team, and I am stoked to see it, and today was a fun one. By the way, it's hard to win on the road. Case in point right now, I don't know if you can see in my reflection here, Tennessee, number 6 Tennessee, 60-2, just lost to Vanderbilt, at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's pretty solid, but it's hard to win on the road. It's really hard to win on the road. We're seeing it a lot. Minnesota beat Michigan this week. This is what happens. Road games are difficult in the Big Ten. Road games are difficult in the SEC. Games are difficult in college basketball. Purdue is finding ways to win on the road. Today, another game where Oregon said, okay, we can't beat you with pace because Purdue was playing with pace early. Purdue wasn't making any of their shots, but the game was a hurried up pace for a little bit. Then Oregon said, okay, we're going to throw the press at you. And it worked for like one possession. And then Purdue started handling their press. And then Purdue started handling this ugly physical game that Oregon tried to throw at Purdue. And Purdue couldn't shoot to save their damn lives. And yet, they win their second game on the West Coast. Let's talk about the stats real quick. Horrible timing with my text there coming right in front of the link I need to look at. So, like I said, Purdue is 15-4. They're second place in the Big Ten. They've won their 7th straight game, this time at Oregon. Trey Kaufman-Wrenn leads all scorers for both teams, 23 points and 11 massive boards. Here's what Purdue is developing, and here's the key. Caleb Furst is important for a lot of reasons, but what Caleb Furst has done is instilled some, I'm going to go and I'm going to hit these people in the mouth. And he did it a couple times early. There's some bad calls, but he's still instilling the toughness. He and CJ Cox, they're not showing up big in the box score, right? CJ Cox, no points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. But what do these two do? They are changing the way Purdue approaches the game. They are both playing very tough. Kaufman-Wrenn is notable in this, having 11 rebounds, because Purdue, guess what, wins the battle on the glass versus the much bigger and much stronger Oregon team. Oregon threw a lot of things at Purdue. Dana Altman's no slouch. He's a good coach. And he did things like, you know what, I'm going to throw a 6'5", 24-year-old at your Braden Smith. I'm going to do it. And guess what it did? It threw Smith off his rhythm, but Oregon tried to go huge at one point. Purdue went small, and then Purdue came back and hit him with TKR. Pretty incredible for, number one, Purdue to stay close as they couldn't shoot, and then to finish that game just keeping them at an arm's length. That's the thing that's most incredible, is Purdue got that 5-6 point lead, and they just kept Oregon out there. They just kind of said, okay, we're going to play our game. You can do whatever you want. We're going to play our game. And what did Purdue start doing? Getting in those passing lanes and causing turnovers. Oregon had 16 turnovers. And in the first half, none of those were more important than the ones that Braden Smith was getting in the passing lanes because of watching film. These little details matter. That's all coaching. That comes back to coaching. Braden Smith is a very, very good anticipating defender, but that all comes back from how you're watching film, how you're breaking down film, and what your coaches are telling you to look for. Hats off to Matt Painter and company. Purdue's coaches look great. Braden Smith finished with 15 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals. He had 5 turnovers. So 5 turnovers and only 5 for 15 from the field. But those 7 assists, again, Braden Smith in his bad games have good games. 15, 7, and 4 plus 4 steals. It's absolutely stuffing the stat sheet, and it's why Purdue is so tough right now. My wife, it was fun watching games with her. Her perspective is different than mine. I like hearing what she has to say, but she'll say things like, why won't Braden Smith just get the ball out of his hands? Well, here's what it took. It took Purdue a few months to figure out, okay, Braden Smith, everything's going to run through him. This isn't the Zach Edey year where you can just go say, first things first, get it to Zach, and then Zach's going to make the decision. No, Braden has to make the decision. Braden makes some poor decisions, right? Like sometimes he gets off his feet and doesn't know where he's going to go with it. This, you take the good with the bad. You cannot change it, right? But it's more good than bad. It's a lot more good than bad. And he still looks to me like the best player in the conference, which is incredible because there are players in this conference. Is he a National Player of the Year? He's flirting with it, and he's flirting with history too as he throws up 7 assists. He's getting up there in the rare air with really, really great point guards in the Big Ten, including Magic Johnson. Fletch Lawyer, like I said, a disappearing game, 2 for 9 from the field, 6 points, 2 boards, and assist. Looked off. I don't know if he was sick. I listened to thank God, I didn't have to listen to Bardo. So I listened to the Varsity app. I synced it up much, much better. Listen to Blackman and Buckets on there. I highly suggest downloading the Varsity app and saving yourself the sheer dismay, anger, nausea, whatever you want to call it, by listening to the broadcast team generally. Cam Heide, this is a big deal right here. We haven't seen this in a long time. Off the bench, Cam Heide had 9 points, 4 rebounds, and a steal. No turnovers. Very solid game, quiet game, but he had a couple big threes, and he had, he missed one of those free. No, 4 for 5 from the free throw line. I thought I remembered that. Very, very good. Purdue shoots their free throws excellently, 83.3%. And then on the flip side of the coin, they shoot their 3 awful, 2 for 12. 2 for 12. So yet again, like I said earlier, the 3 ball does not travel for Purdue. It does not travel. It has not traveled well this year, but defense does. Defense absolutely does. Purdue has 8 steals on the day. Oregon, which is a defensive-minded team, also had 8 steals. That's a physically tough team. But Purdue is a team that's maturing and getting better all the time. Like I said, I always called this year a transitional year. I will continue to do that. But all of a sudden, Purdue's starting to look like a team that not only are they good in the Big Ten, they're good nationally. And if they can develop a couple things like, hey, let's hit some shots on the road, look out. Look out. But this defense, man, damn it. This is classic Matt Painter stuff. This defense looks absolutely great. Jakari Harris had 5 points off the bench, 5 for 6 free throw shooting. Doing the little things is a big deal. I'm going to keep saying that. Doing the little things is a big deal, and this Purdue team does the little things. Raleigh Burgess had a couple very important minutes, finished with 2 points, and Colvin only had 1. Frustrating day for Colvin. He was doing what he could. Looked good on defense, but had some frustrating plays, I think. Yeah, he didn't shoot the ball that much. Only shot the ball twice, only shot 1 3. On the other side, the guy that I look at and I'm like, damn, again, like Auburn, you look at some of these guys on Oregon's roster. I look at TJ Bamba, 6'5", looks like a linebacker. TJ Bamba, of course, one of the guys that's an emblem of this era of college basketball, started at Washington, went to Villanova, comes back west to Oregon. Just a beast, you know. Kwame Evans coming off the bench is a very talented guy. Brandon Angel is a very talented guy who was in foul trouble all day long. Biddle, I don't know where I think he transferred to, has a hairline that's worse than mine. I choose to shave mine. Hey, Nate, note from a caring fan from another team. Shave it off, bro. It's over. It's over. And of course, Jackson Shellstad. He's a really good player, and he's a homegrown guy. This is the one guy on Oregon that you're like, okay, he's literally from the state of Oregon. He was a player of the year type guy. And I think he's young. I think he's a sophomore. I don't think he's going to be there very long. He looks really, really good. But I hope he's not there very long. Hope he heads to the pros. So that's about all I got to say. Let's talk to you guys now. Boy, great showing here for Purdue fans. Thanks for being here. Thanks for making Boiled Sports and our post games part of your ritual after a victory or a loss. We can come here. We can cry when they lose, and we can laugh when they win. Sam Lovejoy says, "Boiler up, great trip, great night, great job, Boilermaker fans who traveled." Oregon's fans, if we're going to be real honest, that was pretty embarrassing. You've got a top 15 Oregon team playing a top 17, top 20 Purdue team, and they were not full. I got to tell you, that's garbage. That's garbage. I know Oregon has some fans. I know they've got, football, they're legit, but what the hell, man? Be better, Oregon. Seriously. That place is a tough place to play when it's full, too. It probably was a tough place to play today. It got loud at times, but they should do better. C. Metzger says, Wild, Wild West. Yep. Nate Dolan says, Boiler up, defense, the whole thing. Michael says, ugly at times, but nice to get the West Coast sweep. Huge. Absolutely, Michael. Boiler Bruss says, Boiler the heck up. Pat Gottschall says, good evening, fellow Boilermakers. Ed Albanese is here, the gummy bear king of Indiana and the nation, if we're being real honest. Ed says, well, that was a UFC event. Yeah, that was physical. And Lurch, the official, I can't never remember his name, and I'm glad I can't remember officials' names. Not about them. He's generally a solid official. He was pretty bad tonight. And the way this crew handled things when they got really physical was silly. Just silly and inconsistent. They need to be better. And this is part of the reason a lot of people don't respect the college game, because you have stuff like that happening where it becomes just a grimy, gross wrestling match. And that's part of the reason Smith hasn't been able to get loose the last few games, because they're beating the living hell out of him. My goodness. Andy in Colorado says, good afternoon, everybody. Boiler up. Terrible shooting performance, and we made 5 threes the entire trip. Wow. Good stat. That might be stat of the day, Andy. 5 threes in 2 games. 5 threes and in your entire West Coast swing, and you come away 2-0. That's incredible. What that is, that's toughness right there, right? Because if you can't hit threes in this era of college basketball, you lose. Not this Purdue team. They've done it 3 or 4 times in the last 7 games. They've won all 7. Pretty awesome. Yeah, TKR free throws. Boiler Bugle says TKR free throws were huge. They were absolutely imperative. No doubt about it. Nate Dolans continues, did Oregon have to tone down their court? Remember the darker tree-heavy court? Have you seen Georgia's? I just saw Georgia's court today. Have you seen Georgia's court? There's a giant ugly dog. Yep, it's the two-tone stain. A lot of people are doing that. Anywho, Boiler up. So if you know the history on the court, they say it was the old, they had they call it in the woods court design, and it was done to pay homage to Matt Knight, Phil's son, who passed away. And it's supposed to look like you're laying on your back and looking up at the grand pine trees, the pines of the Northwest. Very cool idea. And it was noteworthy, right? Every time you turn on an Oregon game, you'd note, okay, you're watching an Oregon game because the court. I thought it was pretty hideous before. I think now it looks pretty good, but it's the same concept. They've just brought it down a notch or two. They still pay homage to Matt Knight on the court. But yeah, they did tone it down, no doubt. But everybody else, as they toned it down, everybody else is turning it up. You look at, there are tons of that two-tone stain concept happening. Georgia, one of them. There's another one where I've seen there's a mountain range. I've seen a cityscape, a whole city skyline. Can't remember who it is. You have the states. Penn State has it now. A lot of schools have the state. I think Minnesota, did they have the state in the center court? I can't remember, but there are a lot of schools doing that with the two-tone stain. I don't like the trend the way it looks right now. Matt Keller says TKR so good at the free throw line today. It's super impressive. If he can shoot free throws that way, he's all Big Ten. Full stop, right? That's, if you look at Purdue's free throw numbers again, I think they shot 30 free throws. Yeah, they were 25 from 30 from the free throw line. And Kaufman-Wren was 9 of 9. Braden Smith, 5 of 6. Cam Heide, 4 of 5. Jakari Harris, 5 of 6. There's your story. That's the game. That and just playing hard, playing tough mentally, not letting a tough crowd beat you down. Really, really good. Really good. Let's see. Ted Berkey says, missed the game, but thrilled for a win. Boiler up. This one's worth watching on the DVR, Ted, but you'll be frustrated. You'll be happy that they got the win, and you'll be happy to watch it from the perspective of you can kind of just say, ha, 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 we won. But tough to watch at times. Frustrating to watch. John Roberts says, what's your favorite home field apparel item? I think my favorite home field apparel item is, and I don't have it on obviously right now, just got all black on, is the Purdue basketball script oatmeal sweatshirt, which I don't even know if they sell anymore, but it's my favorite one that I own. They also have one with the drum script, which I do own this one, or I have this one right now, and you can get it. It's the drum script in gold on a gray t-shirt. Solid stuff. Solid stuff. But the new sweater, I told you, that's what I really want to see how good it looks on me. It's got the old timey block P. It would look really good on me because it's shaped like I am, kind of square. So if you want to buy me a gift, that's your suggestion for Valentine's Day. Let's see. John Lesak says, or Lesak, sorry about the pronunciation, says Purdue should have been up by another 10 points. Yeah, they should have. It's tough. You go on the road, you're not going to get a friendly whistle, which Purdue didn't, I don't think. And it's just tough to win on the road. It's just tough. The style Oregon was playing was, I would say that looks like Big Ten, old-timey Big Ten basketball, the bad Big Ten basketball that gives Big Ten the rep it's got, where it gets the tournament and you run out of gas because all you do is beat the hell out of the other team. And Oregon's better in that. They've got more skill. They don't need to do that all the time, but they decide to try it again. And yeah, it's not going to play well the whole season. The Noodle, my pal, says, tuning in from Wingman Sled hockey tournament. That's cool. Go Icebreakers, Boiler up. How are they doing? Hope they're winning. Hope they're winning. Goalie play is essential. Let's see. Ed Albany says the lack of threes reminded me of UConn game. Yeah, but happier ending. Pat Gottschall says the defense has really come along. It's been a revelation. We're actually forcing turnovers. They're forcing a lot of turnovers. It's an identity we haven't seen in a while. I agree. Didn't need it to win with Edey. Paint can win with different ways. This is the thing. Paint's ability to evolve and change and react to the personnel he has is the most underrated skill he's got. It's wild how well he changes what the team is going to focus on that year. That's a very good point. Yo says Burgess is getting better, and he is. He's starting to show a little bit more poise. Really, really good to see. Who's Johnny says, I feel like Fletch really wasn't getting open. He wasn't getting open, but, he doesn't have to get open most games. Generally, he's so good at creating that old man little runner, but he wasn't getting open. But the refs were lousy. I agree. Let's see. Spencer Schreiner says Colvin. I don't know what that is. Is that it? Is that all you got? There's got to be something. Colvin got nailed by Biddle. Yeah, Biddle's a big dude, and he's pretty effective. You look at his numbers, because I wanted to make a point about not all 7-footers are all that effective. He's pretty effective. He almost averaged 14 points a game and 8 rebounds. I mean, that's a guy I think any team would like to have on their team. And he can hit the three. I think he did 2 threes down the stretch, which put him past his average. I think he scored, 15 points. I didn't look at his box score, but I think that put him past his average. So pretty good. He's a good player. Let's see. Let's go down and see if Judith Johnson, who was looking to get on the show live and got here. Good job, Judith. Says, I felt the Ducks were going to be a serious threat, and they were. They're a good team. Like I said, their physicality cannot be underrepresented. You really can't. They're very, very good. Very physical, good defensive team, and they're just big dudes. IC says, finding ways to win games when shots aren't falling, defense and free throw making won the game. You can tell TKR was worked on free throws. His stroke looks good. Yeah, he looks like a different guy. John Hawks says TKR was 7 of 20 from the free throw line. If we don't get better at the line, it's going to cost us. I don't think that stat's correct. He was 7 of 20 from the field. He was 9 of 9 from the free throw line. So I understand your point. If that were the case, yes, but I think you misread the box score. Jack Leonard 22. Jay Money is here. He says it's especially hard to win at Vanderbilt because those benches are so disoriented. That whole court is disoriented. Little things like that matter. I don't know if that forces you to lose games, because if it did, Vanderbilt would be undefeated there. But it's really wild. That design of that place is crazy. It's one of the two dumbest designs of all college basketball. IU's Ass Hall is number one dumbest. We've been talking about that this week. The Boiled Sports feed, we text each other, and we've been talking about how dumb of a design it is to face two auditoriums at each other and then throw some high school bleachers in the back. It's a dumb design. There's so many bad sight lines in that place. Even IU fans have to admit that. They may love the place. It's one of the top, 5 or 7 venues in America still, in spite of being awful. But Vanderbilt, there's no excuse there. That place is weird. Pat Gottschall says, looking at Ken Palm, our defensive ranking jumped from 35 to 20 after this game. And you know what else is going to jump? The ranking's going to jump, because I think the pollsters, the coaches have been like, you're beating nobodies. And it's a fair point. Purdue's been beating lousy teams, but beating the hell out of them. Kind of the IU football theorem, right? Can't control your schedule, you control how you play. Purdue's been beaten up on bad teams. Well, now they play a good team on the road, and then they find a way to win in spite of playing not the best game. Need of being versed. How are you, Andrew? Says, never would have thought Purdue would be have such a presence on defense. Proud of my Boilermakers. It's kind of a throwback, right? It's the way things used to be, which is nice to see. It rhymed. It was awesome. Judith Johnson says 16 turnovers sure helps. Yep, and it's not like that just happened. Those are 16 turnovers that Purdue caused, right? That's a key point. Purdue is causing turnovers. Rob Blackman and Bobby Buckets talked about how good Purdue is at creating turnovers, and there's no doubt. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is really good defense. Boilers 012 says, B. Dowd post-game rap greater than Bardo in-game analysis. Bardo gets paid very well, and I find him so hard to listen to, and I've tried. He blocked us a couple years ago on Twitter. I probably made a statement about something about having hard time with afterwards. My ears were literally bleeding. I got blood all over my shirt, and that wasn't pleasant. So I probably made a comment that caused it. So I'm not going to apologize. Blake says, if Smith comes back next year, I don't know how he wouldn't be a huge favorite to win National Player of the Year. Let's start talking about when Smith comes back, because that's the thing. I want this Smith and Lawyer tandem to see their maturity. That is going to be an absolutely brutal duo for people to handle. And it's not so much that you look at these guys like you do these other, like Houston or somebody, when they have a couple 24-year-olds in the backcourt. These guys they're not going to look intimidating. They're still going to be, even with the beard, Smith is still a little baby-faced. They're not going to intimidate you before the game, but they're going to frustrate the hell out of you during the game. Those guys are killers too. They are competitors. It's too bad Fletch did whatever he did before the game. Goodness. Eddie Money says, wow, Eddie Money's here. I know this isn't on topic, but Purdue football, or at least the O-line, has 5:55 team breakfast that doesn't start until everyone is there. Barry Odom is bringing accountability. This is what Odom does. He talked about UNLV. His days at UNLV, I think they said the day started at 6:30 every day, and they got the day done by 10. Somebody said it was because they're dealing with desert heat and all that. Sure, but there's more there. Odom is a big accountability guy and an old school guy, and it's going to wear out a lot of people. So if they didn't come in with him knowing it was coming, you're going to see the portal. I think Purdue's going to have a couple more portal defections at the end of the spring. I expect it. But they're changing things, and they have to. He might be the perfect coach to resettle a team that has fallen to a deep, dark depth. So Tamaz J says, am I the only one who really doesn't like it when TKR backs down bigger centers and forces a shot up in 4 dribbles? TKR is good off rolls, but not backing them down the centers. Okay, so I agree with you in one way, because the way he initiates contact looks like he's going to draw the foul, right? Like, he is hitting those guys so hard with his shoulder. But the reason he's doing it is he always is undersized in that battle. I believe he has been told to embrace the contact, get tougher, because you remember early in the season, he was complaining a lot to the officials about getting hit. Now he's getting hit. He's initiating contact. He's probably putting a little bit of a bruising on him. I get your point. But if he doesn't do that tonight, Purdue doesn't win. Plain and simple. I can understand what you're saying, because it's not fun to watch. It's not like watching Edey do it. But what is? That's the problem. Even if you look at Travion Williams, right? A couple years ago. Similar size, not quite as strong as TKR. But Trayvon Williams didn't love initiating contact that way. He played a little bit more of a finesse game, still does. In Europe and in Israel, he's played a very, very finesse-centered game. He's good at it. And I can see TKR doing that with a little bit more of an open rule set to deal with. But in the Big Ten, you have to embrace the contact. So I understand your point, but I think it's essential that he does it sometimes. Let's see. I'm going to go down a little bit here. Tamaz J says, I think the Biddle is the second best center in the Big Ten, better than Ballo. Yeah, Ballo is really disappointing. I think IU fans should be disappointed and look at themselves in the mirror about how much they spend in the offseason, but whatever, teach their own. Michael J. Volmer says, according to the AP, Kaufman-Renn missed the first 6 shots from the field. I know he missed the first 4, finished 7 for 20, making all 9 of his free throws. Yeah, he started really frustratingly bad. And I think it was because he was trying to play finesse ball. I really do. And so that kind of goes back to that last point. Oregon wasn't going to allow him to do that. He wasn't going to be effective. The funny thing, Oregon tried to do, it seems to me, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but they tried to do what a lot of teams have done when Purdue's gotten blown out of the water. And Purdue did a couple things to counter. And this is Matt Painter and company doing some good things. When Oregon started getting really physical with them and went to that really big lineup, at one point, Purdue put in a very big lineup, like a lot of height. Did you have Burgess? Tell me if I'm wrong. Burgess, TKR, and first in at the same time. I think they did at one point for a very quick stanza. But what they're trying to do is counterpunch, right? Okay, if you're going to try to do this, we're going to do this. Purdue didn't counter much with big guards. You didn't see like, I don't know if they can do that right now. Like having Colvin or something at the 2 instead of the 3. They didn't do that, but they did try to counterpunch. So yeah. Motor City Boiler talks about being Phil Knight's house. Everything's Phil Knight's on that campus. If you don't know that, I mean, like everything. Libraries are Phil Knight's. Academic buildings are Phil Knight's. All the sports facilities look like they do, pristine, because of Phil Knight. So it's great to have a benefactor like that. As a shoe designer, I can tell you, I wish I would have made some different decisions, and instead of staying in design, going into maybe product development, maybe getting into sales, and then maybe, rising to VP or president of a brand, and then being a wealthy benefactor of some sort, like one of the BS guys, if we're just being real honest. But I didn't. And I haven't. Who knows? I'll hold my breath. Maybe it'll happen. Ancient Astronaut says Bardo was making snarky comments all game. I didn't have to listen to him. I'm glad I didn't have to listen to him because he sucks. All right, big time Boiler. Grant says Boiler up, 7-game win streak, 3 upcoming Mackey games. Let's make it 10. This is a tough stretch. This started a tough stretch. This game did. And I'd argue that even the Washington game started that tough stretch because you had to go on the road. But let's see what they look like after this 2-week period, what their record is. It's probably the most pivotal period of the season, but the rest of the schedule is tougher than what Purdue has faced. Let's be real honest. Matt Murphy says, I thought CJ deserved more minutes. He didn't have many down the stretch at all. I agree with that. Some action to be ran for him. Need to know if he can get hot every game. I think it's one of those things where I think Cox's big his value to the team right now is his defensive toughness. You see, he's extended out to about 80 feet almost all the time when he's in. I think that's the big thing. Wear out other teams' guards, put them in a difficult position, make things difficult, pick up the most difficult guard, right? That's a big deal. And I think Painter kind of thinks the offensive part comes. He's not going to have to do what he did against, was it Rutgers or Nebraska? I can't remember which game where he went off, but it was a red team. He is really good against red teams. We know that. Very scientific here at BS. Devout says, pronounced Devu. Devu. Another great road win. Boilers again with a great presence of the game, at the game. Yep, fans were good. Many people that live out west made both games like us. Awesome. Well done. Met a couple people in the stadium. Yeah, there were a couple really, it's pretty neat to see Purdue fans traveling like this. I don't know, Devu, if you're where you're based, but Purdue fans are still traveling. That's obviously pretty neat to see so many people saying, yeah, I'm going to do both of these because you're hungry for it, right? Kind of neat. If you're out in the West, specifically the Northwest, like my brother-in-law, really good opportunity to see the Boilers now. It's a little bit different. If you heard Mick Cronin complaining about how difficult it is for UCLA to travel, I'd say, hey, Mick, close your mouth, because UCLA was in the red as an athletic department and needed Big Ten money, and they took it, and now they're surprised that New Jersey is far from LA. I don't know if you know this. UCLA is in LA, if you didn't know that. That's big news. Nolan23 says, Smith and Lawyer broke the press effectively, but would like to see it end with a layup. Yeah, especially when it feels like Purdue pulls that back a lot instead of attacking the rim. I agree. Let's see. Michael says 3 of his first 6 shots were blocked, if I'm not mistaken. I think you're talking about TKR. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, he was not playing. He was not ready for the physical nature of that game, but he adjusted well. Let's see if I can get anybody here that hasn't spoken up. Who's Johnny says, can't stand Cronin, reminds me of Hurley. He is a much more tame version of Hurley. He is a whiner, though. And what he did, throwing his players under the bus, was pretty inexcusable. I don't think you should do that publicly. I think it's okay to say 1 or 2 things, but to say the whole team is less interested in winning than I am, going public with that seems like a nuke. And I don't know if it's absolutely killed his team behind closed doors, killed their morale, but maybe complaining about the Big Ten is going to bring that morale back. Shut up, Mick. I hope he goes to IU, because Woodson's not going to be in Bloomington next year. I think that'd be a great fit. That's my vote. Mick Cronin for IU coach 2025, 2026. Carl Hirojo says, I knew this team would gel. They are beginning to show their true stripes. They are broad and wide. I knew they'd gel. I did not know this defense would become a monster like this quickly. In fact, I didn't know this defense would do this, period. And the added bonus of now rebounding well, holy moly. Just brilliant coaching by the coaching staff. They've done a great job. Ben Kolzinski says, I'd like the Boilers to play to their average. They win by 20. If their Boilers got a typo in there, Ben, sorry. Played to their average. They win by 20. Glad to get the road win. Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. And I'm sorry, Ben, I want to just publicly say sorry about not giving ISC credit for that photo the other day on Twitter. Did not intend to do that. I know you got that from me on our notes, but I felt bad about that. Some talented people in the Purdue creative universe, extremely talented, and they're not all just for the athletic department, just great photographers, great graphic designers, great videographers. I mean, hats off to all of them. They make this whole thing fun. And the little mini movies that the athletic department puts out after wins, I'm looking forward to this Oregon one. Maybe they'll do a West Coast one. So, yeah, Michael's talking about Chris Beard being IU's next coach. That's a guy that's a little bit scary, but shouldn't be as scary as he used to be for Purdue fans. Remember, he absolutely, I'm sure you do, Michael. He was absolutely dominant over Painter until a couple years ago. Now Painter's, I don't know if he's figured things out, but he did have Zach Edey. That makes it a little bit more pleasant, but he also, Purdue beat him without Edey, right? That's right. I think that's right. Yeah, this year. Noam23 says, no threes, no fouls. We're up 10 with 2 minutes to go. Purdue played a really adaptive brand of basketball and really mentally tough. Michael from Boiled Sports said, hey, who knows? This Purdue team might be really good. And he said it during the Washington game when Purdue stormed back in the second half, showed a ton of toughness. I think that mental toughness is absolutely huge. And it really is, it's really indicative of what Purdue has hung its hat on for a long time. Edey was a different brand of tough. He was just so physically dominant. Nobody could do anything about it. But I think that's it. That's it. Good game for Purdue. Purdue is just out of the lead in the Big Ten, and we're heading towards mid-January. Programming note, I think Anish is going to do it the next post game, as I am indisposed, and I hope you guys enjoy the change, the change up, and the handsomeness that'll be on the screen with Anish doing his thing. Until I see you next time, God bless you, hammer down. Purdue's pretty good at basketball. We'll see you soon.